back to what we've learned at Kantar over the years, and it's only been obviously a couple of decades over that time, around what makes best creative executions in terms of being creatively engaging, but also effective for the brands that they're trying to advertise as well. And what we'll look at here is 7 factors or 7 tips that we should all take forward to deliver the best impact and best return on investment for your ads, for your brands. I've only got 20 minutes and I'm going to show as many ads as possible in that time, but I am a researcher, so I have to bring in at least one chart. So let's kick off with this chart on the next slide. So this is looking at our database of the top performing digital campaigns from our database. So the green there is the top 20% of performing ads. And surprise, surprise, if you deliver a great digital campaign, you're likely to see a strong impact for your brand overall. So you can see that the top 20% deliver the right message, and that leads to an improvement in favourability and purchase intent for your brand. But probably the main thing that I want to draw your attention to as well here is the light grey, which is the bottom 20%. So this is a really important message. If we don't get our ads right, there is actually a risk that we can confuse people with the message that our brand is trying to communicate, and that can lead to actually a lower level of brand favourability and lower level of purchase intent as well. So this is a really important message. Good ads deliver a lot. If we don't deliver a good ad, there is a risk that it can be detrimental to our brand. So with that in mind, how do we make sure that we're not in that bottom 20%? These are the 7 tips that we've seen over the past 20 years at Kantar. And as Nathan said at the beginning, this is still early days. This is certainly not the be-all and end-all, and we're still learning all the time about what does improve our performance. However, with that in mind, these 7 tips are essentially what we repeatedly see deliver the strongest performers across digital platforms. I'm going to take you through each of these and give you a great example, both from overseas and local ads as well, of ones that have really delivered on that. So I guess without any further ado, I will jump straight into the first tip, which is making people feel something. So what do we mean by making people feel something? This is all about delivering emotion. So if people feel emotion towards your advertising, if there's something there that grabs a level of affinity or emotion, most of the time it feeds through to the brand and you feel more positively towards the brand. And when it comes to a buying decision or a purchase intent decision, they're more likely to feel that system 1 kind of emotion towards your brand overall. Now, there are a couple of things to bear in mind here. There is no magic formula, and obviously it's very different for each individual as well, of what is going to make them feel something. But there are some really great ways in, for example, a strong narrative, a story that really engages you. Music, celebrities often do work, and humour, especially in Australia, more than any other market in fact, humour does work in digital advertising and across every channel as well. One brand that's done a great job over the years is Geico. So some of you might be familiar, probably you've seen the dogs jumping on the breakfast table and the freeze frame. If you haven't seen it, it's one of the best ads ever. I'm actually going to show you the first ad today from Geico that was, I think it was in November last year.
It's a small finger, a worm.
Like a dagger?
Tiny sword.
Breadstick.
Matchstick.
A lamppost.
Coin slot! No.
10 seconds.
A stick, a walking stick, a
Eiffel
boundary,
Tower.
Mount Kilimanjaro, big responsible.
Sorry, it's a tandem bicycle.
What?
As long as sloths are slow, you can count on Geico saving folks money. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
If you want funny videos fast and without frustration, click the subscribe button. It's a matchstick. It's a breadstick. It's a pretzel stick. It's some kind of stick.
Geico have a great history, incredible creativity over the past few years, and they keep on delivering it again and again. And what they do well is that level of humour is a very soft sell. And they don't go with a hard sell message, a very soft sell, and linking that humour through to the brand and trying to get you to do something which is subscribe to their videos and engage you in a category that you might argue is not the most highly engaged category overall. So there are plenty of examples of humour. I'm not going to go into too many of those because some of the tips that we'll talk about later on go back to this humour because it's a common theme across the board. But tip 2 is all about standing out at the start. So we all know that the digital environments are a tough and challenging environment. So be it catch-up TV or be it YouTube We need to make sure people on a mission-based, they're mission-based when they're going through. We need to make sure that we stand out. And when it comes to social, on the Twitter, the Instagram, and on the Facebook side of things, the same challenge exists. We need to make sure that we stand out. Again, there's many ways that we can do this, but the unexpected or something that gains your attention, eye-catching right from the beginning, is always going to work. So hopefully the sounds right on this one, because this is an example that will definitely grab your attention from this first second.
Kenzo.
World!
The new
Fragrance.
So that was Talk of the Town a couple of years ago in Creative Circles. It was a 4-minute execution that now has 26 million views. But actually I would argue this 30 seconds is an even better execution than the 4-minute, because the 4-minute actually zooms in on the character. So it's quite slow at first. You zoom in towards their emotion before she starts doing the dancing throughout the opera theatre that she's in. The 30-second jumps straight in, grabs your attention, and if you have those 3 seconds before they skip, it's going to grab your attention straight away. And that theme of making sure that we zoom out from the character, so you grab the attention right from the start, is another key tip that we need to bear in mind. The next execution is a local one for Livia. You've probably seen the 30, this is the 6-second version of it, but again, will grab your attention and stand out from the beginning.
Nivea Sun Protect and Moisture for protection against UV and dryness.
It's a fairly simple execution, but again, the juxtaposition there between the blue and the ultraviolet light and the fact that the sunscreen is black on her face at the start really does draw your attention and makes you notice straight away. Also, the simple thing of a human emotion, so her face draws your attention at the beginning, is always going to stand out as well. So tip 3 is an obvious one, and give the brand a leading role. Across all of the tips and across everything we know, get the branding right and you're likely to see the strongest results. It's in our database and our metrics, we know strong branding above everything. You can have the most creative ad, but if it's not well branded, obviously people aren't going to know it's there. And again, talking about the environment that we're in, we obviously need to make sure that in those first few seconds, people really notice your brand, so that before they skip, before they move on, they're taking out a brand message. I think it's not just a case of showing up as a brand. Yes, sometimes it can work, but we need to make sure that the brand has a role in the ad overall and it's in the narrative. And there's many ways of doing that around distinctive assets, spokespeople, icons, colours, etc. But the one I'm going to show you now is actually slightly different for the first two. There's no sound on this one, but it's a great example of how the brand has become a strong role within an execution. Fairly simple overall, but that brand use and the product at the start actually meant that this ad was double the Facebook norm in the market that was tested for branding. So without doubt, nearly everyone said yes. I remember that as an ad for Lysol. And it also does it in a clever way of showing the range, the different ways that this product can be used, and the creative style with the more cartoon pictures as well. People really found that that was a way to grab their attention at the beginning. So, a very different one, this one, coming up in the local market is for Audible. I'm only playing the first 30 seconds. It is a 4-minute ad.
Open the cover, I scan the page. The words they call me, it's always the same. There's love for reading in this heart of mine, but I can't find the time. Download for free with a 30-day trial.
You all wanted that to carry on, didn't you? So it's a great example. The Audible logo at the start, again, it's not just about showing up, but it clearly has a very clear, strong role. If you think about the environment, this is used in YouTube, and people are often watching music videos and music clips in that format, so it does well there. But going back to the brand, it has a role throughout. So the reason he doesn't have time to read, so Audible has a role there. Even the simple use of the orange writing is a brand cue as well. And you could pretty argue Michael Bolton is becoming a brand cue for the brand as well. So there's many ways to do it, and those cues, those distinctive assets need to be there in the first second of any execution if you don't have a really strong narrative building up to it. So the fourth tip is getting the length just right. So you're probably thinking here, oh, we're just going to say make them as short as possible. To some extent, there is evidence that we've collected. The average person would prefer their ads to be below 10 seconds. Does that mean we should go for it? Absolutely not, because the reality is a 6 seconds, 60 seconds, 6 minute all work, and some of the examples that we've shared here already demonstrate that that is the case. However, we need to think about different things when we're talking about the length. So if we've got 6 seconds, it's all about making sure that branding's there and we get the message across in those first few seconds, and the branding does need to be there at the forefront. When it's a slightly longer one, we need to grab attention so that they continue and they don't skip, and the narrative is there. One brand that's doing this really well, particularly in the US, is Duracell. So they've used different length ads to maximum benefit over the past few years, and I'll show you the 30-second first.
Do you need the most trusted battery in your flashlight? Maybe not. Maybe you could trust your own eyes to see in the dark. Maybe you could trust strangers to help. Maybe you could trust this tent to be flame retardant. Or you could just trust Duracell.
So a fairly standard 30-second ad there, used for TV, also used for YouTube. I think from last year this one was. Very simple message, trust is power, the branding is very strong. Obviously this would be a challenge to do this fairly strong story within a 6-second execution. So rather than try and fit it into a 6 second, they used levels of synergy between the different executions to deliver some really strong results. So this is the 6 second.
This is the #1 trusted brand.
Certainly not going to win any awards for creativity, but absolutely on the money there in terms of very strong branding, actually shows the range, and again reinforces the message that they would have seen from other channels and from the 30 second around trust is power. So definitely getting the length right is important. The fifth tip here is similar to the first one about the emotion, but when we talk about making lasting impression, it's all about what will people think about your brand in the long run. So what's it going to do for your long-term equity when you're left with a stronger impression generally for your brand, rather than it being purely a product message or a communications message. I'm sure most of you have seen this execution. If you haven't, I highly recommend you do look at it. This is actually a 4-minute ad for Samsung from India. One of the most viewed ads, I think, of history now. I won't play the whole story at all, but if you have seen it, it's essentially a story where at the end of it, it's a real feel-good factor. And there's no doubt that whilst the person from Samsung is not necessarily the hero or saving the story, you feel that affinity and it carries through to the brand overall. And that kind of leaving a lasting impression without a pure message is really strong. What I'm going to play instead is a local one, and this is probably my favourite ad from the day today.
Why can I have a strong skim latte?
Hello? Sir?
Strong skim latte, please.
Sorry, could you repeat that, please? Sir, did you say strong skim latte?
Yeah, medium, please. Thanks.
a cafe. We're coffee people.
What a lovely ad. With a 1-year-old who's teething, this just resonates with me at the moment. So they're not trying to, obviously there is a message there, coffee, they do coffee, great, but it's all about the emotion related to it. So I think even if you're an anti-McDonald's person, you feel a level of affinity towards the brand from this execution. And actually it does a great job of delivering some messages as well. So convenience, support, open all hours, those kind of messages do come through really strongly. So it leaves a lasting impression for the brand. Tip 6 is consider the context. This is pretty no surprise for most of you in here, but getting an ad right for the context is crucial. And the last stats I'm going to share with you today is this one. So this is taken from our cross-media database globally over 5 years, and essentially looking at 3 things. So the grey there is a non-integrated campaign. So different ads over different channels all over the place without any consistency or common golden thread throughout them. The blue is an integrated campaign using the same creative. So take your TV, chuck it onto every platform. And then the gold standard there is an integrated campaign where each platform has its own ad. As you can see, you get a higher, based on our database, 50% better return on investment when we do have that customized for each platform. No, I haven't got too much time, but I will share randomly here a couple of German ads. So for the German speakers, you'll find this hilarious. First of all, the TV ad that was tailored for a YouTube environment.
Oh, ich habe meine Handtasche vergessen.
Noch ein Stück. Noch. Noch ein Stück. Weiter. Oh, da.
Zum Glück war sie noch da.
Und? Küsst sie gut? Deine Handtasche?
Der neue Opel Crossland X mit innovativer 180-Grad-Rückfahrkamera, die sogar um die Ecke sehen kann. It's a good life.
Just looking for a good life.
For the non-German speakers, the gist is she potentially forgot a handbag, she goes to the guy, and randomly the parents creep on her with the car. But obviously fairly good, and branding was strong for that execution. But refreshingly, they did tailor this for a social feed environment as well.
Oh, ich habe meine Handtasche vergessen.
Noch ein Stück. Noch. Noch ein Stück. Weiter. Oh, da.
Zum Glück war sie noch da.
Und? Küsst sie gut? Deine Handtasche?
Der neue Opel Crossland X mit innovativer 180-Grad-Rückfahrkamera. It's a good life.
So no real refilming or anything there, but the way that it was cut meant that branding for that execution actually doubled. So the use of the split screen, the increased level of the branding throughout. So a simple way there of how to really evolve an execution. The 7th tip was just about testing and learning. I'm from a research agency, so I'm obviously going to say, wherever possible, test to make sure that we deliver on some of those 7 tips. But if I could break those 7 tips into just 3, it pretty breaks down really to making sure there's a level of emotion, so something that will make people feel something, getting the content right for the platform and the length of things, and also making sure that we have an impact and branding comes through. If we can deliver as many of those tips as possible, we're likely to make sure that we get the absolute maximum reception from consumers and of course maximum return on investment as well. Thank you very much.